Hi, it's Michelle, and this is Chiari Rhapsody. I'm going to apologize in advance today because I actually will be reading from a list of talking points and not just winging it. You know, as a Chiarian, we tend to have brain fog and get easily distracted and forget what we want to say, and sometimes we end up on rants going where we didn't want to go in the first place. This is probably the most personal video that I've done so far. So I really want to stick to my talking points and try and make sure that I say everything that I want to say that's in my heart to say on this subject, and don't go anywhere that I don't want to go. All right, so let's do this. They say that hurting people hurt people. And that's something that I've been able to experience as being true. And I've seen it on both ends. You know, I've had hurting people that have said things and done things that have hurt me, sometimes pretty deeply. And I know that when I'm hurting, I have to be very, very cautious that I don't lash out, because we do, right? When we're not feeling good, when we're hurting, when someone's hurt us, we're so quick-tempered, and we can really hurt people that do matter in our lives. Well, recently it was brought to my attention that a neurosurgeon, one that most of us consider a specialist, called Chiarians idiots for helping one another with MRIs. I'm actually involved in a group that does exactly that, and we actually do it pretty darn well. You know, what's really interesting is that I think, are looking at this handful of people that came in and said, well, this group said this, and you're like, what the heck, who is this group? I don't agree at all. But what you don't know is how many hundreds, maybe even more, that you've already fused or decompressed or offered treatment to. How many thousands, literally, we've been doing this for like maybe 4 years now. And we're not the only group doing it, but I think we're probably the only group doing it as well as we do. But, we've referred thousands to you over those 4 years. And the reason that we refer you is because we've listened to videos and we've done research, and, how many times have you talked about, people that have, a pathological clavoaxial angle of less than 135 degrees, handling that neck, that craniocervical junction before they're decompressed and too much bone is removed, right? We understand that you do so many redos, and that makes it even harder to fuse people. So, when people share, and most of them are being told that they have nothing wrong with them, or they have nothing else other than the Chiari wrong with them, and we learned to measure clavoaxial angles so that we could try and help them. And when we see 110 clavoaxial angle or 130 degree clavoaxial angle, we do recommend them to see one of two doctors, one in New York or one in Maryland, because really, you guys are the best at the craniocervical junction that we feel is out there. And even if all they do is do a consult with you and find a local neurosurgeon that is willing and, to find out how to do it, or has the ability to do it, that's their choice. But we do let them know that these are the doctors who specialize in problems of the clavoaxial angle. So you don't know how many thousands have come to you, how many thousands have emailed you their pictures, and you tell them you're complex, don't get decompressed, you need to see a specialist that deals with complex Chiaris, right? You don't understand how many of those that we looked at their MRIs and we pointed them in your direction, right? You don't know how many of those that you've already fused because we pointed them in your direction. So you're going off of these few that you disagreed with. And, we're not trying to be doctors, and we aren't pretending to be. Most of us don't think very highly of doctors anyway because they've failed us so many times. In fact, you must have at one point acknowledged that they were failing us because you drew a line and called them run-of-the-mill neurosurgeons. Right? So you knew that these neurosurgeons who specialize in cysts and tumors and herniated discs, right, might be out of their league when you get into a complex Chiari or, where there's other pathologies that are causing those tonsils to be down. And that's something that's not really disputed, but I'm going to get to that. What we do really is not much different than if somebody brought in a picture and said, have you ever seen a rash like this? And one of our moms says, you know what, my kid had a rash just like that, and it turned out to be the chicken pox, right? I mean, it really is not much different than that, except for we had to study a little bit more to figure out, to learn. Yeah, so I want to tell you, it's not okay to call any of us names. You know what it's like to be called names, because we've heard you being called names by your fellow neurosurgeons and patients alike, and we prayed for you, and we will continue to do so. Your name calling in no way devalued us, but it devalued your character, that you would live to serve a Chiari community and somehow think that it was okay to call any one of us names. We already live with so much pain. We already fight with family members that believe the doctors that they say that we're okay and we're cured. And so our families think that, it's all made up, right? Or that we're being lazy. And our lives are a shadow of what they used to be, right? So we're trying to rise above it and help one another. We already fight to be heard in a world that finds it easier to act like our pain is all psychosomatic. And some of these doctors that you're recommending, and we don't, I get that they're your friends, your peers, and you think they're excellent neurosurgeons. But we know the other side of the stories. We see how their patients are having to fight to get help after they've been decompressed, how they've been dropped as patients, and how they're having to struggle to get help from a neurosurgeon that's willing to clean up the mess that was made. Whether they have a confirmed pseudomeningocele or a surgical clamp left inside their heads, touching their brain stems. But when we choose that we cannot recommend a particular neurosurgeon, it's not something that we take lightly, largely because of the unjust things that we've seen happen to you. But it is our recommendation, not yours. You're entitled to yours, and we're entitled to ours at this time in our country. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing as long as this is a country that allows freedom of speech. And I'm going to encourage my Chiari and comorbid brothers and sisters to do the same. You see, that there are many conditions that are pathological to our cerebellar tonsils falling like they do. I know you know because the research that the research that I've read almost always has your name somewhere on it. The more I read, the more I felt compelled to share the information that I was finding, in hopes that I might help others avoid some of the complications that led to my failed decompression and subsequent surgeries. I've had 8 EDS-related surgeries, and I have an 11 millimeter cyst in my brainstem. And so I'm probably going to have more surgeries in my future. And I think that there are questions out there that should be being asked, right? And if we can't get doctors to ask the right questions, then we need to get patients to ask their doctors the right questions. And here's the thing, I don't really care what an inconvenience those questions are to you. When we're paying a doctor, whether it's us or Medicaid, whatever, you're getting paid for your time. You're getting paid for your knowledge on the subject. So if we have questions before brain surgery, I think that's something that you're going to have to deal with, and neurosurgeons are going to have to deal with, because we really should be asking more questions than we do. We spend a lot of time and our own money on our limited incomes to help pave a way for us to have a voice. You don't have to like our voices, but we're going to continue to give rise to those voices anyway. You see, you don't have Chiari, so you really have no idea what it's like to struggle through all that we've had to struggle through. And not just in the pain, but really in the way that Chiarians are treated. I mean, you've given your life for these Chiarians to help Chiarians, yet you felt it was okay to treat any one of us the way that you did by the name calling. As Chiarians, we need to start believing in ourselves again, our own aptitudes to learn, researching, and helping one another through it. Don't just believe me or anyone else, regardless of their title. Look at the research for yourselves and look up other views on the subject. One doctor might concentrate on one thing while another concentrates on something else. But these pathological cofactors are documented as causing our cerebellar tonsils to herniate. Yet we're all being diagnosed with Chiari 1 malformations, and we're being decompressed and then told that we're cured. That's not okay, and we deserve better. I've spent a lot of time praying and thinking over all that I wanted to say in response to your name calling. At one point, I wanted to tell you that if you don't have the heart for Chiarians anymore, it might be a good time to find another profession. But the truth is, you know more about Chiari and comorbids than any doctor on this planet, and you know that you do. We don't need you to quit, but we do need you to check your heart in this, because we really do deserve better from all of our doctors and from you as well. And so with that, we're praying for you. And, don't get discouraged. That's why we started praying for you to begin with, because we didn't want you to get discouraged and stop, because we really need you. And everything that you've done has advocated for us. But you can't be calling us names. We don't deserve that. And if you're not willing to stand up for us to be treated better, there are many of us that are willing to stand up for ourselves, even if that means standing up to you. So God bless you. God bless you all. Thank you for watching this video. And I hope everybody has had a really good Thanksgiving. And I hope you all have a blessed Christmas.